Welcome to the Caregiver Relief Podcast. I'm Diane Carbo, RN. Today we're going to talk about caregiving. And caregiving is not meant to be done alone, yet the majority of family caregivers out there are doing just that. They do so with consequences that impact their health, emotional, and financial well-being. So if you're a caregiver who feels exhausted all the time, if your mind won't shut off, your body aches, and sleep doesn't restore you, if you've been pushing through day after day, telling yourself you just have to keep going, I want you to hear this first. What you're feeling is real, and it's not your fault. Caregiving doesn't just take a toll emotionally. It affects your entire body. And over time, that constant stress can leave you feeling like you're running on empty or like your body is starting to break down. So many caregivers tell me, I don't even feel like myself anymore. And today we're going to talk about why that happens. I'm joined by Mitch Webb, a nervous system coach who understands this from both a professional and a personal level. He went from high performing and outwardly successful to physically and mentally collapsing under the weight of chronic stress and illness. What he discovered and what he teaches now is something every caregiver needs to understand. Healing doesn't come from pushing harder. It begins when we learn to work with our body instead of against it. If you've been stuck in survival mode, this conversation is for you. This episode is sponsored by myvitalvault.net, your all-in-one life organizer for aging adults and caregivers. It's designed to help you securely store your essential legal, medical, and emergency information in one easy-to-access place. Because when a crisis hits, being prepared can make all the difference. Join our Caregiver Relief community, a warm, welcoming space where you can connect with other caregivers, ask questions, share stories, and find support from people who truly understand. Visit community.caregiverrelief.com to join now, because caregiving is one of the hardest and most meaningful things you'll ever do, and no one should have to do it alone. And if this episode speaks to you, please take a moment to like, share, or comment. Every click helps us reach more caregivers who need encouragement, resources, and hope. Mitch, you have an incredibly powerful story, so I'm really glad to be able to share your willingness to share your information with my listeners. Can you take us back to a time when you first realized something wasn't right in your body?
Oh man, Diane, first off, thank you so much for having me on the show. I was over here taking notes. You said exhausted, ruminating, aching, sleeping doesn't restore, pushing through, and that checks all the boxes for the clients that I work with. It's interesting as we prepare to unpack my story a little bit. It's almost like I was the caregiver in my story, and I ended up with all the symptoms that you're discussing there, trying to fix and biohack, looking for, I call it the Amazon Prime of healing. I wanted it the next day. And when that's not successful, we have this story that we're broken. And typically, we double down and push harder, and the symptoms don't get better, they get worse. And so, if you're someone that's listening to this podcast and you feel like that, you're absolutely not alone. And it's a pattern that I see all the time with myself and my clients. And when did I first start to notice something was wrong? I was about 20 years old. I was studying abroad and I fell out of a second story window. I hit my head, had a traumatic brain injury. And I had trauma. So I had dysregulation in my nervous system that I wasn't aware of. Now, doing a bunch of work, I can see that. And what I mean by that is we may say we have two different people that have a bad accident, car accident, death of a spouse, illness, losing their job, divorce, you name it. One person, let's do the car accident as an example. Person who's regulated, who has a strong foundation there with their nervous system, they may go about their day and nothing's different. They may have the car accident, maybe they've got some bumps and bruises, but they bounce back pretty quickly. Let's even do a bump up. That's a better example, so it's not so extreme. Now, the dysregulated person who maybe doesn't feel safe, who feels stuck in fight or flight, activation, shutdown, they have a small bump up, and the next day they can't get out of bed and they don't feel like themselves. They start withdrawing from life. They start having gut issues and insomnia and maybe some autoimmune stuff, and they don't know what's going on. And that was my story. I broke out in autoimmune disease. Maybe 6 months later, I started having panic attacks and anxiety and didn't even know what that was. I went to the doctor, said something's wrong with me, something's going on, and they said, do you have anxiety? I'd never even heard that word as a 20-year-old guy, and I left with a couple of prescriptions and good luck.
Sadly, our medical delivery system, that's a response to everything. Let me give you a pill.
Yeah.
And it's not the answer to anything, and it's a bad solution as far as I'm concerned.
I would say this, in the short term, it helped, and at that
Yeah,
time,
I
I
bet.
I was grateful to have that when I had no other resources, and in
Yeah.
retrospect, and someone that was on benzos, medication for sleep, for almost 2 decades, I would say, yeah, I mean, it's there if we need it, and it's supposed to be a short-term thing so that we can get off of it, and it also feeds into the narrative that we hear from society that you need to suck it up and get back in the game and push harder, and these symptoms are bad, and we got a pill for that, and so it makes sense that someone would want the Band-Aid or the crutch and would
Yeah.
think there's a deficiency instead of doing this deeper work that takes time and is not as sexy as pop a pill and keep going.
Yeah. I've had the pills too. I had treatment-resistant depression, have had the panic attacks, have had the anxiety because of caregiving. I was both a professional and a family caregiver, and I started at an early age at 16, so I've always been in, I believe, was survival mode. I didn't realize it at the time, but here I am at 73, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah." I did function in survival mode. I was existing and just pushing through just to get through every day. So I understand that. So many caregivers feel that constantly exhausted, the anxious or overwhelmed. Can you explain to us, Mitch, what actually is happening in the nervous system when somebody is under that chronic stress?
So what's happening when we're dysregulated and we're stuck in fight or flight? We're expending a lot of energy and we got all these symptoms that are trying to get our attention, and we may make that a problem, and or someone's dependent on us. We're a high performer, so we keep pushing through. We feel like our we don't have time to stop,
Yeah.
and it becomes like it's a burden, it's a nuisance, these symptoms, and we actually kind of judge them and say something's wrong with them. But what's actually going on in the nervous system is we're stuck. We're stuck in fight or flight. Eventually, when we're in fight or flight long enough, our body will shut down. It'll go into freeze, and we may function there. I say function, kind of like you said, we're surviving, not living. And
Yeah.
it makes sense in the case of a caregiver because someone's depending on them and it feels like it's life or death. And it may very well may be.
Yeah.
So over time, our body cannot maintain this high level of stress and things start to break down. And that's where the nervous system is connected to so many of the systems of the body, the hormonal system, circulation, digestion, being able to rest and sleep, having energy or not having energy, or and being able to sleep or not be able to sleep. And so pretty soon, if if we can't bring safety into our body, even in a place where we actually are safe, our body is responding to the past because we're kind of holding on to that. We're holding on to those emotions, we're suppressing them, we're not allowing ourselves to rest or be ourselves. And what we need is a teammate. We need someone to kind of take care of us, and we need rest, and we need to take care of our body. And we're so disconnected from our body because of all the symptoms, because of all the stress, because of the drive to take some care of someone else, that we're not even hearing those signals. And
Yeah.
then we hear take a pill, put a band-aid on it. And so we're just end up managing our life until we can't anymore and we break down and we
Yeah.
have to take a pause and we have to look at these things. But as you can see, it's a recipe for disaster if we don't know how to meet ourselves and the symptoms that are coming up. And none of us do, especially if we didn't get modeled that as a kid. We weren't allowed to be ourselves. We weren't allowed to have certain emotions. And we had this obligation and this priority pushed on us, or maybe we had a loved one that we wanted to, that got sick. And so it just feels everything kind of rolls downhill and we don't have a choice. And there's all this pressure. And that right there just makes my body kind of tighten up talking about that.
Yeah. Talk about nervous system dysregulation. People don't know what that means. So, can you talk us through what that is, why we develop this dysregulation? I know it's ignoring the symptoms or ignoring the signs, but what is it and how do we avoid it? Which is what you're going to tell us about anyway.
So, nervous system dysregulation, where do I start with that? We kind of have this window of tolerance, and that's where we feel good. We're creative, we can sleep, we have energy, we wake up and we're refreshed, we don't have all these symptoms. And then we have fight or flight, which is a sympathetic activation.
Uh,
And that's normal. We want that fight or flight working, just like we want the parasympathetic working. But when we have a threat that's not going away, that sympathetic drive kicks in so that we can fight or we can run away, flight. When we don't have those options, or we stay in that prolonged stress for a long period of time, eventually the body throws on the e-brake. That is the parasympathetic. The more of the parasympathetic is rest and digest, but it's also freeze. It's immobilization. You can think of an animal that is going to play possum until the threat passes. So our nervous system gets activated. It wants to fight or it wants to run away. When it can't do that and it stays in that prolonged stress for a period of time, the e-brake comes on. And now our body thinks that we're dying. And the best thing that it can do is dampen all these different systems, conserve energy, and we end up living our life in this functional freeze that we would call it, where different systems are turned down. Hormones might be lower, energy may be lower. We may not feel, we may be numb. And dysregulation just means that we get stuck because a normal human nervous system is going to move in and out of stress all the time. As a human, there is no such thing as not having stress. It's more about, do I have the capacity to be with the intensity of the stressful situation, handle it, and move out of it? Now, if I don't, then my nervous system's going to shut down and I'm going to get numb and start to avoid life maybe and have all the additional symptoms coming up. And so much of my work is just normalizing physiology and the biology of stress, like how our body responds to stress, and saying, hey, it's not that we want to be at peace all the time. It's we want the capacity and the ability to handle stress in a healthy way so that we're not getting stuck. And so the way we start to do that is we just start to notice our patterns, notice what we're feeling, connect with our body by being here in the moment. A lot of my clients, they come to me with a lot of these chronic symptoms that we're talking about, and they're stuck trying to manage and fix themselves or prevent this symptom from happening again. And really what we do is just go, hey, these are your survival patterns. This is how the body has learned how to survive. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. And so much of the freedom that we are looking for happens here in the moment when we can use our senses, our sight, our feel, taste, touch, smell, and and just feeling in our body. Can I feel my butt in my chair right now? Can I look around the room that I'm in and notice what I'm feeling in my body and be able to hold two things at once? Can I hold this part of me that feels very uncomfortable? And can I also show my nervous system that I am safe right now? That what I'm responding to is the past. My process would be, there is education. So learning about the biology of stress, learning about our physiology and how it works, and normalizing what's going on, teaching people that you're not actually broken, there's nothing to fix here. And then bringing awareness in is my second step. And so we would become aware of the different patterns that we have and how we react when stress comes in. We're building capacity to see ourselves. Are we compulsively fixing ourselves, compulsively maybe helping someone else? Or we're able to sit with discomfort and understand, how do I respond to that? Next, we may move into building capacity. So, learning how to be in our body through titration, doing little bits of awareness, using those senses to be here in the moment and understand what's going on now. And then learning to follow our own bodily impulses. We start with going to the bathroom when we need to go to the bathroom, eating and drinking when we're hungry and thirsty. The more we respond to our body, the more impulses it gives us. Eventually, we learn how to accept and allow the symptoms that are coming up, realizing that our body is not trying to hurt us, it's trying to survive. And this is what it's learned. And so we've mapped our patterns. We're starting to be with and accept and allow the symptoms. And next, we move into expressing, learning how to express the emotions of being a caregiver for decades or years or decades, of being someone who's dealt with chronic stress, what that means on a day-to-day basis. Maybe there's anger in there. Maybe there's grief that needs to pass. So much of symptoms are literally just trapped emotions that want to choose to release. But if we have a belief that they're bad, that they're not allowed, we keep pushing them down to stay in service of someone else, or stay connected to somebody, or to be seen or loved or heard. Things like people pleasing, perfectionism. These are our survival identities that we think we are. And so this work is really building education and awareness, learning how to be with our sensations, our emotions, see our patterns, to accept and allow what is here now, and eventually get into a place where we can express the trapped emotions, the grief, the anger, the fear that we've been blocking. When we can do that, our body doesn't have to get our attention anymore through symptoms.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I have been under chronic stress for a long period of time when I was young and then in my middle age, and I couldn't sleep. And that's a typical caregiver, is they don't eat right because they're always on the run. So they're shoving anything that's in their path in their mouth. Many look for to calm themselves down, so they drink or they take a pill to calm them down so that they can continue to provide care for their loved one. And they really do push themselves to their limit. Many complain about they're wired, but they're tired. Do you know what that means and why does that happen?
Oh yeah, body's stuck in fight or flight. It's trying to survive. And when we're stuck in fight or flight, that activation, that sympathetic nervous system is on high, it's on high alert. That's what our body's doing. It's on high alert. You think about our ancestors, if they didn't have food and they were fasting overnight, they're going to have a tough time sleeping. Body wants to survive, body wants to eat. If there's a constant threat of, and that's what as we talk about a caregiver, it's the same thing with my clients, who some of them are caregivers. There's this tiger at the door that won't go away no matter how hard we try. And it's like our life is dependent on taking care of this person, taking care of ourselves. We make ourselves a project to be fixed. And then we have this story driving that we're the glue. We may be, we're holding all this together. That's a lot of pressure to be put on a person. And that's that tiger standing at the door. And if there's a
Yeah.
tiger standing at the door, I don't know about you, but it's not a time to procreate. It's not a time to digest food. It's not a time to sleep. We got one eye open and we're making sure everything's okay. We're trying to protect ourselves. So literally it's just survival. The body is trying to survive. Of course, we need to sleep, but the nervous system doesn't know the difference between having a thought, being in the moment with this stressful situation, or if we're constantly thinking about it. All very common responses to stress if we don't know how to deal with that.
Now, you talk about regulating the nervous system instead of forcing change, but what does that actually look like in real life?
So regulating versus forcing, that would be, there's, where do I go with that? Because it depends on where the person is at with
Okay.
their capacity, right? In the beginning, that may be just understanding what's going on, like understanding why my body is stressed. Because it helps when we have education and awareness, it can really help with the uncertainty that we're experiencing when we're dealing with all of this, right? Oh, okay. This is why my nervous system is wired. This is why I'm tired when I wake up. This is why when I go to the appointment with my spouse, my chest gets tight. I can't sleep that night. And so it's normalizing a lot of the physiology. And then another one is when we're building capacity, that's also going to be a way to regulate just being here in the moment and orienting. Orienting is using our senses to be present. So if I can just, I said earlier, all the freedom that we're looking for is here in the present moment. So can I just go into the noticing mode, kind of like a meditation? Can I notice when I'm getting activated? Can I notice when my symptoms are coming on? My chest is getting tight. My breath is feels like I can't take a breath, or my heart's pounding. Can I just start to notice that? Can I then notice how I respond to that? That's like looking at the pattern. What do I do when I feel those symptoms? Do I run and take a pill? Do I call a friend? Do I Google? Do I freak out? Those are all compulsive ways that we respond to it. We don't have other resources. Eventually, we may use those senses to just show our system that we are safe by feeling the intensity of what's going on, slowly just noticing my butt in the chair, noticing.
It's like living mindfully.
Yeah,
Is that it?
that's a little bit of
Yeah,
mindfulness.
it's really hard to do. I know it's really hard to do. You really have to focus. But at least it is for me when I first started to do this type of thing to make myself, I can identify now. All right, Diane, you're getting revved up. What's going on here? Here's your anxiety levels.
Yep.
And I always take a step back and go, stop, let's get a hold of things here. And I take some deep breaths to try to calm myself. And then sometimes I just that will take the anxiety away initially because I try to look at things from a logical point of view, which is not easy when you're in a high emotions
Oh,
state.
yeah. That's something I talk to my clients a lot about because all the education in the world is not going to regulate your nervous system when it's dysregulated. It's
Yes.
because our prefrontal cortex gets knocked off, our creativity's gone, and we can't think straight. We're running from the tiger. And so
Yes.
to zoom out of that, I would just start to notice. Oh wow. Like you said, I can notice, oh, my breath's getting tight, chest is getting tight. I'm feeling very activated right now. And it's like just the act of noticing is going into that observer mode instead of can I get curious with what's going on in my body instead of
Yeah.
being terrified? Can I just notice that I'm terrified? Can I let that part of me know that it's okay to be afraid?
Yeah.
And so much of it is just awareness and education of what's going on in our body. And then how can we attune? If a little child showed up at your door and it's raining outside and you open the door and they're crying and you're going, oh, what's wrong? What would you do? You bring them in, you give them a blanket, you talk to them, you sit them down. But we've been conditioned to slam the door on that little child and shut them up with a pill or with researching until we find the answer. And so there's a lot of different things going on here. And what we want to do, excuse me, is slowly bring awareness to these things and normalize it and start to attune instead of pushing the symptoms away.
I think I go back to my nursing training. When people are running away from a scene, we're the ones that run towards a scene. We're there to, when people are saying, oh my God, somebody's stopped breathing or whatever, or somebody's on fire, we have learned as in our training, take a deep breath, move forward, and do what you need to do to help that person. But it goes too far because I don't do enough to help myself over time. As a professional nurse, you can still walk away at the end of the shift and go, I survived another shift. And you can go home and relax. And I will share something with you as nursing started to change due to the managed care and all that. Our workload got to a point where it's just unsustainable. And I used to get physically ill a day before or 2 days before I'd have to go back to work. And I realized that about myself, and I thought, I can't do this anymore. I have to. So I looked for nursing positions in alternative settings. And that's where I learned about case management and utilization review and a whole bunch of things outside the hospital setting. And what I've learned now is nurses today are having such stress and strain put on them that we really don't have a nursing shortage. We have a shortage of nurses that are willing to work in those unsafe conditions. So I thought that's something that has interested me because I think the people that are in the nursing in the hospitals right now, they're getting beaten up. They're getting not only beaten up by the patients, but by the management. What did you do to make that patient hit you? Really?
Yeah.
And they get no support. And it's very common. I think that's one thing that I know about nurses, but caregivers, family caregivers, they don't have that training. They don't have any kind of knowledge or backup of what is being expected of them. And it really puts them into that chronic fight or flight. And as you were saying earlier, most caregivers are people pleasers. They really work hard to please everybody, ignoring their own health and well-being, and it does play a whole number on them. So that's why I was so excited to be able to get you to share your information because you bring knowledge of how we can overcome that we don't have to live with this anxiety and dysregulation. We
Well,
have
I want
the
to
ability.
normalize everything that you just said because I experienced that when I was working in the corporate world years ago. I would not sleep Monday through Friday. I'd drink a bunch on Friday and I'd do it again Saturday and feel good, maybe as good as I could, waking up
Yeah.
on Sunday morning. And by Sunday afternoon, I had the Sunday scaries. I was terrified to go into work next day. Right. And
Yes.
we're so used to overriding what's going on in our body,
Yeah.
the different emotions, the different sensations. And we get to the end of the day, and instead of releasing these emotions and this tension in our body, we don't know how to do that. And so it just stays in the system. It goes right back in. We got to
Yeah.
go do it again tomorrow. And of course, their body is going to let you know through symptoms. All it's doing is trying to protect you and communicate. Oh man, you're going to make me go do this whole scary thing again. I feel like the picture that I get in my mind is having like a dump truck full of dirt leaving work, but not emptying that dirt because we don't know
Yes.
how to. And that starts,
Yeah.
that's not just a caregiver thing, that's a human thing because we don't get taught how to be with our emotions and how
Yes.
to let go of them or let them move through the system. That's all they want. They just want to be seen, heard, and they want to be, they let go. They do not want to stay in the body. But our whole society is built around burning the candle at both ends, avoiding difficult conversations and
Yep.
emotions. Just take a pill, just get over it, just go back to work harder, discipline. And this work is about accepting and allowing and surrendering and learning how to express the things, the scary things that we're told are bad. And so it's real
Yeah.
easy to get caught in this loop of just continuously filling up the stress bucket, and it makes sense why people would get burnt out. And so I think teaching people how to meet themselves where they're at, express what's been held, let the body shake, let the body get angry and sad and scream and yell. And the things that you're talking about, running towards a burning body or somebody that's in a car accident, that's a lot. And thank God we have nurses and people to take care of these situations. But man, we could do so much better in teaching them how to take care of themselves after stressful events like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of nurses, the average nurse right now and leaves the profession in 2 years. It's a real high turnout if they end up in the hospital setting, and they're probably going out and finding nursing in another arena, like for insurance or care management. There's just a lot of other alternative settings that they can be in and make money and not have that kind of stress and harm to their bodies.
Same thing with functional medicine doctors and doctors all along. It's those of us that are dependent on military people, former
Yes.
athletes, entrepreneurs, single parents, we all have this pressure to perform. And when
Yeah.
that stress of whatever it is that we're performing and taking care of other people, when that weighs on us and eventually we go into collapse, we have this narrative that we're broken, and then we go into the compulsively trying to fix it, and that just makes things even worse. And so that's where, again, I can't say it enough. Education and awareness is so important. And then
Yeah.
giving people tools. This isn't rocket science. Your body wants to heal and it wants to be in homeostasis. We just haven't been given the tools of how to do that.
Yes. For a caregiver who is overwhelmed and has no time, or they perceive they have no time, what is one simple place they can start?
So if someone is overwhelmed and they have no time, oh, I would, a good one would be learning how to transition between stressful events. So when we say, it kind of gave me a tricky question there, Diane, when you say they're overwhelmed and they got no time, right? So
They always perceive they have no time. I will tell you
well,
that right now.
yeah, and that's going to be everybody, right? And so
Yeah.
can they take a moment to pause in between when they're switching from one thing to another? The nervous system regulation is not sexy. The whole wellness industry wants you to think that. Take a pill, take a supplement, do this crazy biohack. A couple of years ago, I'd have probably told you to jump in an ice bath and go do a hard workout. If we don't have time for that, may be also be overwhelming to the nervous system as well, dumping gas on the fire. So can I take a minute to pause and feel my butt in the chair? When I get, say
Yeah.
I'm getting in the car in the morning before I put my seatbelt on, can I feel the steering wheel like I'm using my touch, like kinesthetic awareness, right? Which is it's just touch, right? Can I look around the environment that I'm in? Can I look inside the car? Can I look outside the car? Can I feel my butt in the chair? Notice my breath? Can I do that for just 30 seconds or a minute? You know, when
Yeah.
can I give myself a second to walk around the block, park further away in the parking lot and take the stairs and
Yeah.
move a little bit of that activation? Can I feel my feet on the ground and walk outside and just take nature in? Can I give myself just little moments to connect with myself in my environment? So when we're in dysregulation, we're typically in our head because it's too much to be in our body, to feel what's going on in our body, the racing heartbeat, the shortness of breath, the activation feels like my body's on fire. So yeah, we're going to live in our head. We're going to think our way to safety, thinking, what do I need to do later? What do I need to take care of? How do I cross off my to-do list? How do I keep go, 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 go? And that's just going to keep throwing gas in the fire. So can I notice that I'm doing that? And can I take a moment to pause and just use my senses? That's what I would do in the beginning. And we do tiny bits of that. So this is not like you got to even take a minute, 10 seconds, maybe it. And as we do that through awareness, that's how the body regulates by not trying to prevent the worst thing from happening or repeating what's happened in the past or anticipating or catastrophizing what's coming up. Can I just notice that I'm doing that and just give my body a little drop of safety by being here in the moment right now? Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. One of the things that I encourage my listeners to do is to actually get outside in nature every day. I don't care if you have 5 minutes to just open the door, even if it's a blizzard. Stick your nose out there, feel the air, feel the wind, feel the cold, or enjoy the sunrise. And because a lot of them are up early because of their loved one, get out and feel the warmth on your face. Just even if it's just for 5 minutes a day, it's a start to get you grounded back in that you're part of a system and a part of something to help you relax and have a good start to your day and connect with something.
I got another one for you too. Those are all you're got the nail on the head there. Another one I would say is if this stressful thing wasn't here, what would I want to do?
Yeah.
And for me, with my chronic symptoms, when I had anxiety that felt like my body was on fire and fatigue that was so bad that I couldn't get out of bed, I was waiting for some magic intervention or moment, or I've even heard people on my podcast said they're looking for a cure when they've had chronic illness. They're waiting for that. So
Yeah.
ultimately, our life gets really small and we're
Yeah.
waiting for things to get better before we do what we love. And I would say, get really clear on what your values are. Mine would be things like freedom and exercise, connection, being healthy. And how can I do one of those things? How can I do it with the symptoms, with being tired, with being anxious, with being activated? For me, it was just going and taking a walk in the morning and checking out
Yeah.
nature. And the more we show our nervous system that these symptoms are not going to kill us, and newsflash, you've probably experienced the worst of them, and they're not going to kill you. They're just going to make your life really small and uncomfortable. And so, can we do something for ourselves? I know that's difficult when we're constantly doing something for someone else, but what's one thing? It can be start with really simple and really small. And what does that feel like when you give yourself that? I'd even say if someone's been dealing with this and they're recognizing their life is really small and they're avoiding things, I'd say, what's the one thing that that you've been avoiding because your symptoms are too bad or too much? I'd go do that right now.
I like that. I like that a lot. Mitch, how do people find you?
Thank you for that. My website is mitchwebb.com. I've got a contact page on there. My podcast is Rooted Conversations. That's on YouTube and all listening platforms. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and I'm trying to figure out how to do a little bit of TikTok.
I haven't delved into TikTok either.
It's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, yeah. Just for your information and for my listeners, all your information, your social media, your website will be on a permanent page on Caregiver Relief so that people can find you in the future if they're perusing my site. For that, I want to thank you for your time and your wonderful information. It really resonates with me. It really does.
Well,
And I
thank you
hope
for
our
having me.
listeners will listen to what you have to offer because I have caregivers, honestly, that tell me they go days without a shower because they don't have time.
Yeah.
And,
One other thing, Diane, that I had, I wanted to, sorry to interrupt you there.
no,
I want to make sure that the listeners know I've got a free gift for them, and you tell me if I need to resend this to you. But I've got a nervous system quiz that helps
I
you
have it on
understand.
my site. I have it ready to put on the site.
There you
Yes.
go. So it's a free quiz where people can put in, answer 10 questions. It'll let them know what is their nervous system state, their primary state recently, and then give them some free tools on how to regulate and get started with this work. It leads to a free 30-minute complimentary call with me as well. And so if they're interested in that, it's a great place to start.
I love that. Yeah, I actually looked at the nervous system test and I thought I definitely wanted to include that on the site because caregivers need to know. They just need to know, hey, you're ignoring a lot. And if you take it, you all of a sudden realize, oh, I need to give myself some more attention. We
That's
tell
what it
them to
is.
do self-care so much, but self-care isn't enough at times because they don't do it on a consistent basis.
Self care can become a way of avoiding our symptoms as well. I definitely did that. Do I run and get a massage every time I'm tired? Do I go do an ice bath to feel energy in the morning? And now I'm throwing gas on the fire. It's really working with someone who's been there, who's not just
Yeah,
going to throw more at you and is going to help
yeah.
us slow down and meet ourselves instead of running from it.
I love that. Thank you so much for your time and your information. To my family caregivers out there, you are the most important part of the caregiving equation. Without you, it all falls apart. So please learn to be gentle with yourself. Practice self care every day because you are worth it.